I was explaining at the end of the last video that usually when I give this problem in class, this is the most common answer, and I was trying to explain to you why it's not correct. So I agree, you get the x squared. I agree, negative 8x and positive 3x is negative 5. Oh, I guess it should be a, not x, right? But the problem with this answer is when you do the L of FOIL. L means last by last. Negative 8 times positive 3 is not positive 24. So that's why that answer does not work. Remember what I said up here? When you have a plus sign, that means the signs will be the same. So when you write negative 8 and positive 3, the signs aren't the same. And if you do two positives, then this would be an positive 11a. If you did two negatives, then it'd be negative 11a. So it just doesn't work no matter what the combination is. So that is the most common wrong answer, and I just wanted to show you why. So when you FOIL it to check it, L times L gives you negative 24, which is not what this is. So I know, kind of a trick question to give the students right at the beginning, but lots of times students just get in a pattern and just start putting stuff in and don't think about it and don't check it, and that is a good reason why you need to check it. Okay, next we have a polynomial that has two things wrong with it. One is it's a cubed. We've never learned how to do cubes. And two, it has a negative out in front. So that tells me, hey, check for a GCF. We don't know how to do polynomials with a negative in front. So yes, we do have to take a negative out, but notice there's also a y common. So there's a negative we have to take out because we learned that in the last section, that whenever you have a negative, you need to take it out because we don't know how to factor trinomials with the negative in front. And then we look down the line and see if there's anything else, and we see the y. So anytime you have a factoring problem, you always look for a GCF first. GCFs were from our last section, 4.5. So we're taking out a negative and a y. And so that means we need to divide this term by negative y, this term by negative y, and this term by negative y. And what that leaves us is positive 3 minus 1 y squared, negative 4, 2 minus 1, which is y to the first, positive divided by negative, negative 21. And so on the test, a lot of students get that step and then they just box it. No, you can't stop. If this factors, you have to factor it again. So don't just assume every polynomial factors once. There's 8 problems on your test that factor twice. So we never stop after the first. We have to say, I wonder if there's factors of 21. Remember how I said read the problem backwards? That subtract, don't look at that sign. Are there factors of 21 that subtract a 4? Oh, there are. 1 and 21, does that subtract a 4? No. 3 and 7, does that subtract a 4? Yes. And then we do our signs next. So when this is positive, that means the signs will be the same. And this tells us what they'll both be. But when this is negative, that tells us the signs will be different. So that means 1 plus, 1 minus. So let's go ahead. And this is our GCF. It stays out in front. So then we do y plus, y minus. And this, so after you do your different signs, so again, don't do mindless math. The reason the signs are different is because a positive times a negative is the only way we can get a negative. Because a lot of students just insist, okay, if it's a minus and a plus, then it's, plus and minus in parentheses. If it's 2 plus, then it's plus. And they memorize all these rules rather than use common sense. If this is a minus, the only way to get a negative from FOIL is by multiplying a positive times the negative. So don't remember a bunch of rules, just know your math. A negative number, it comes from a positive times a negative, and this is our L of FOIL that's going to give us that. And then this sign tells us what the larger number will be. So the larger number is going to be negative. So I come over here and go, okay, the signs are different, and that says to make the larger number negative. So when I go to put them in parentheses, I know to put the 7 with the negative and the 3 with the positive. And remember the little shortcut I showed you to check. Negative 21, yep, that looks good. And 3 minus 7, is that negative 4? Yes, it is. So I walk away and go, yes, I know I have that right. And a lot of people will get involved in the factoring, and guess what they forget? To bring that down. You'll miss it. Alex will count it wrong. I'll count it wrong, because you can't drop pieces off. Everything you do as you factor it has to be brought down for the answer. Okay, so let's do one more together, and then you guys can try one. So I go, we haven't learned how to do those with a number in front. But then I look down the line and go, oh, look at, there's a GCF. Those are all even numbers. Remember how I said in this problem, you always have to take out a GCF first, not later. It has to be the first step. So anytime you come to a trinomial, a binomial, 4 terms, step number 1 is look for a GCF, which we can see is 2. So we pull the 2 out, and we get a squared plus 12a minus 45. And remember what I said on the last problem, don't stop after the first. You have to check and see if there's factoring. So what your head should be seeing is, are there factors of 45 that subtract to 12? Well, those don't subtract to 12. 2 doesn't go into it. 3 and 15. Ding, 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 ding. Subtract to 12. So those are the numbers. So I need to set up my 2 parentheses. And then I need to obey my rules from before. This says the signs will be different. The only way to get negative 45 is by multiplying a positive times a negative. So in my parentheses, so notice I brought my 2 down so I don't forget, I do 1 positive and 1 negative. Then I look up here and I go, oh yeah, and then whatever sign's there is always going to be the larger number. So this is the larger number sign. So then I go over here and go 15's larger, so it has to be plus, and 3 smaller, so it's going to be negative. And then in my head I go, well, let's check it. Is 15 minus 3 positive 12? Yes, it is. So then I put my 15 with the positive, my 3 with the negative. Then I do my quick little check. Negative 45, yep. 15 minus 3, positive 12. Boom. So you can walk away with a big smile on your face and know you got that one correct, because you took the extra 10 seconds at the end to check it. Okay, time to turn the video off. And I believe the one on the test, you could study E or F. So let's highlight them both so you look at them both. So as you do this, pretend it's the test question and see if you can do it all by yourself. Okay, and then turn the video back on when you're done and we'll check it together. Okay, so I noticed 2 things with this when I look at it. I go, that negative, can't have it there. She told us no negatives in front. And then I look down the line and go, oh, look, 3 goes into all of those. So not only is there a negative I need to take out as a GCF, I need to take negative 3. So then I write my negative 3 in front, divide everything by negative 3, and I get positive 1a squared. Negative divided by a negative, positive 7a, and a positive divided by a negative, negative 30. So then I go, okay, don't stop, because there's a chance it could factor again. So in my head I go, are there factors of 30, read it backwards, that subtract to 7? Yes, there are. So we have 1 and 30. Does that subtract to 7? No. And remember, stay in order. Go up one by one. 2 and 15, does that subtract to 7? No. 3 and 10? Yep. 10 minus 3, 7. So that means, okay, let's go ahead and make our parentheses. And remember, this says the signs are different. So it's going to be A plus and A minus. And then the other thing I showed you up here is when they're different, you look here and the larger number takes that sign. So this tells me the larger number needs to be positive. Well, 10 is larger, so make it positive. And then I just pause. Is 10 minus 3 positive 7? Yes, because I have graded millions of tests. And I will tell you, the number one error is students don't put the signs on correct. And all it takes is you to add these together and make sure you get that. But students will switch the signs around, or they'll make them both positive, all kinds of things. So just pause and check it. 10 minus 3, positive 7. So then I know I'm on the right track. So put 10 with the positive, 3 with the negative. So then I work it out. Do it my quick check. Negative 30, yep. 10 minus 3, positive 7, yep. So I am good to go. And I remembered to bring my GCF down. So there is nothing you will do more of than this kind of factoring in this class. So big page. This page and the next 2 pages, huge. Like the rest of your class revolves around these 3 pages. So make sure and study those. If you need to redo them. Practice on Alex, because you're not going to learn just by doing a couple examples. Okay, let's go on to the next page. We have time for a couple more. Okay, so all of our problems on the last page either started with having a 1 in front, or we were able to take out a GCF and make a 1. So look at all the problems. 1 in front, 1 is a leading coefficient, 1 is a leading coefficient. We were able to take a negative y out, so we had 1 as a leading coefficient. We took a 2 out, so we had 1. We took a negative 3 out, so we had a 1. So what happens if we can't take something out? So look at this example here. There's nothing common to 6, 11, and 10. So how am I going to turn that x squared into 1x squared? Guess what? I can't. So trinomial factoring was what we learned on the other page. This we call AC method. So where it gets its name, and we use AC method when we have this kind of problem. So now A is not 1. It's going to be negative 1 or 5 or 7 or 3. Looking like this. That's when we use the AC. So first we look for a GCF, just like always. Like I said, you always, always, always look for a GCF first. Next, you multiply A times C. So A times C. So A is what's in front of the leading coefficient, C is at the end. So multiply A times C. And then we find, we'll have to go to the next video for this.